Okay. Well, welcome. Thank you very much for coming to Whatcom Writers and Publishers for March of 2021. We have now been doing this virtually for a year, which is really stunning. And glad that people are still plugging along with us. We're going to be talking fairly soon about how we could have a hybrid meeting. I haven't told anybody this, but it's in my head. A hybrid meeting where those who are vaccinated and feel comfortable doing so could come to Nikki's Bella Marina as soon as they're comfortable with it. And we would still make the talks available by Zoom for the sake of people who cannot attend in any other way. We're gonna, I think a lot of organizations are going to try to do that kind of thing from now on, just have a channel out to the public. So we will be talking about that, Janet and Bharti, just so you know. Now, at this point, I guess I should say who I am. I'm Sean Dwyer. I'm the author of A Quest for Tears, Surviving Traumatic Brain Injury, which is a memoir about TBI. And we have a number of people here with books. Elizabeth Turvo has a book, but you have to go to Georgia to buy it. They cannot, it's so fancy, it can't cross state lines. And but I do want to invite people here to tell us about what you have going on. For example, I know Janet has audiobook news, and so I'm going to let her lead off, and then by following her example, anybody else who wants to talk can. But first of all, as Claire said, in the upper right hand corner where it says, if you mouse over and it says view, if you click on it to get where it says speaker, then when Bharti and Wendy are talking, they will bounce back and forth, but other people will sort of be in little tiny boxes, which is good. And the other thing is that if you open your chat window right now, it'll be on the right-hand side of your screen, and that way you can keep track of what people's comments are, or if they have questions, you can see what they are and try to guess what the answers will be if you like to do that kind of thing. So I'm going to let Janet talk because I know she has news.
Well, I wish my news is that I'm getting a haircut, but that's not going to happen. I'm getting my second shot, so I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah, my big news is that after quite an adventure of doing a Kickstarter campaign, I hired one of the best narrators, Chris Humphreys, to read The Ussing Affair. So it's now out. We had a little hassle with Audible, but it's now live. And so the next step now is finding ways to get reviews. And those of you that do have audiobooks, you know what the challenge is to get it known out in the world, but I'm very excited. So that's my big news. And I am writing again. I really miss going to cafes, and I've joined a group that came out of Surrey Writers, and we're meeting every day, and I'm using that as my cafe, and I'm actually getting chapters done. So I feel like I'm finally almost normal. But I'm looking forward to hear what other people have to say.
Anybody else have news about their work? Sky does.
I am publishing my work, a culmination of 40 years, in a series of folios. They're small magazines. The print edition is and 13 artists locally and in Ashland, Oregon have contributed their art for the covers. And the paper editions are available only at local bookstores. Village Books has some, but I've heard they haven't put them out yet. And Allied Arts, I know, has them out. And there's also audio online that can be a subscription. There are 13 of them to be published on a bi-monthly basis over the next 2 years. And it is about,
congratulations.
Yes, thank you. It's a literary artwork consisting of 13 bi-monthly folios published over a 2-year period from March 1st through to 2023, and it builds a bridge between the buttresses of scientific reason and Christian faith. It offers a context for understanding the complex challenges facing humanity in today's world.
Wow. Are you going to have this available by subscription or anything?
Yes,
Okay.
on my website, skyburn.com, people can subscribe to the PDF or the audio edition.
Awesome. That's great. That's a really clever idea. I mean, clever in a good way.
It's
It's
a
very
very grassroots.
imaginative. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It makes it alive, and I'm having great fun with it.
Wonderful. Beautiful, Sky. Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a message they want to announce to the whole crowd? Okay, Deborah.
I'm new. I'm Deborah Swenson, and I live on Camino Island, so I'm new to the group. So
Well, and you'll always, you won't have to get up here. You can always just.
Oh, I don't mind coming up.
Well, okay, there's always that.
That would be great. But I am happy to announce that I have a debut novel that came out at the end of the year. Very excited about it. Working with great publicist, and I belong to Women Writing the West and Western Writers of America. And the book that I put out is called Till My Last Breath. And it is a book one in the Desert Hills trilogy, and it's a romantic, Western romantic suspense. So I'm really excited about that and working on book two.
Bravo. Excellent. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
By all means, please come around every month. We're always here. And you should look into the Chanticleer Authors Conference too. I posted the screen of this. Let's see, is it there? Yeah. If you go to shantyreviews.com, you can see that there's a conference coming up April 21st through 25th. But another thing you could consider to get some word out, it would be to go to their get it. They have a book writing contest that includes where's Laramie's? Anyway, the Westerns. So you can have a look there, and it's a very good bang for your buck on advertising for your work.
Thank you. I'll check them out.
Absolutely. And I get no cut for mentioning that. It's something that I think is of value. So, okay. Anybody else before I turn it over to Bharti? All righty. So I'm going to mute myself. Everybody's saying, thank God. And Bharti, I'll give it to you and you can introduce Wendy.
Thank you so much, Sean, for being here and doing the introductions. I'm Bharti Kirchner. I'm also from the club. You may or may not know me simply because it's been so long we haven't met in person. And I was relatively new when I joined, so combination. But nonetheless, I welcome you all very much for being here. I am going to welcome Wendy Kendall, and she is from Edmonds, Washington. So she's not too far away. She's been in our club once before, I think at least once before. And I'm just delighted to welcome her. And she and I, we're going to actually have conversation. And you are also part of the conversation. You're going to be towards the end. Think of your questions, put them in the chat group, and become part of our larger conversation in this particular session, in this particular topic. So let me tell you a little bit about Wendy. Wendy Kendall has a passion for purses like this and stories of women through history who carried them. Her cozy mystery, Cat Out of the Bag, is the first book in the In Pursuit mystery series. And it introduces Catherine Watson, who is an international purse designer and sleuth. Wendy is a blogger, podcaster, speaker, project manager, and syndicated columnist. I don't know how she does all of this and do them well too. And you can catch exciting episodes on her YouTube various podcasts. I also admire Wendy for being part of the writing community and doing so much for other writers. So that's a very special feature of Wendy. So welcome, Wendy. And now I'm going to ask you some questions.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Wendy. So the first question, your mystery series is so unique. Purses, your passion for them, going back to history. And you say, in front of every bag is a fabulous friend. How did you use this and other ideas to come up with a story? Did the plot emerge naturally?
Yes, surprisingly, I went just like my my character. I went from designer bags to body bags, so to speak. I got a lot of lessons from writing teachers. I have so much respect for Nicholas O'Connell. He's with the Writers Workshop, and Pam Binder with PNWA. And 3 huge pieces of advice: write what you love, write what you know, and read what you write. And so I never thought that when I started this, that this would be purses and purse designs. But it did. And so all these odd pieces kind of came together. I love purses. I love reading. I love cozy mysteries. My author hero in cozy mysteries, Laura Child. And I just sort of went through putting all that together, a bunch of odd pieces, and I came up with a main character that has a distinct personality. She's a designer, she's a purse collector, and also that she starts a purse museum. And so in my research, I started researching museums, and oh my gosh, there's 3 purse museums in the world. And one of them is in Little Rock, Arkansas, called SA Purse Museum. And if you're into it, or if you have daughters or wives or friends who love purses, this is definitely worth a trip. It's fantastic. And what I really learned at this museum when I went and did my research and met Anita Davis, who runs the museum, and her staff, is that the purse really represents decades of women, the women's history. And that's what's really important about these purses. That's one of the big reasons why we treasure them so much. So that started to bring together the plot for me, for the mystery, and then subplots as well. And another odd thing is that I ended up at Mount Rainier for a little vacation thing. I stayed at this bed and breakfast, and it was perfect with this water wheel attached to it, and totally inspired me for the renovated old farmhouse for the setting for the murder and so forth. So it's so funny. But anyways, the quote that you talked about, Bharti. So I need an editor. I warned Bharti, I need an editor in my life just to follow me around. So getting back to your quote, in front of every bag is a fabulous friend. That's something from my main character, Catherine Watson's best friend, Brenda Durling. And they go back and forth teasing each other. They're just quite the pair. And Catherine has always been the kind of driven person who, when she sees somebody coming towards her, she recognizes first the purse brand that they're carrying and so forth, before she recognizes the person and even looks at their face. And so that's part of her character arc, is for her to find appreciation in the beauty of the people around her, including women and people who have come before in history. So the full quote actually starts with Catherine: behind every successful woman is a fabulous handbag. And then Brenda would always reply to her, in front of every bag is a fabulous friend. And I will just say before, well, actually, as I was doing this book, I was also trying to do a coffee table book of purses, women with their favorite purses. And I worked on that with a friend of mine, Linda Slimp, photographer. And I interviewed women about their favorite purses. And the stories that I heard were so touching. Their choices really reflected these lovely attachments to family and friends and causes and other passions in their personal lives. And it was really an education for me that what the bags represent have really a great meaning. So I just learned so much. And all of that just has to do with the story, not even the mystery. But that was something that I wanted to ask Bharti about is, Bharti, what do you find most challenging about writing the mystery?
Oh, very good question. I'll tell you what I do. First of all, to write a mystery novel, you have to find something, you have to find a unique story, because mystery readers are generally read like 2-3 books a week. So they know about everything about dead bodies. They know everything about police procedures. They know how to find criminals. They know everything. So in order to write a mystery novel that they haven't read, you have to be pretty clever and come up with something new and fresh and interesting. So that's one thing. The other thing, number 2 point here is that regardless of what you are writing, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, anything, you have to keep people entertained throughout the book. So there has to be something in your writing that keeps people glued to the page for 300 or so pages that you get to do a book. You have to do that. So that's a challenge for any book, but certainly of mysteries. And the third thing is that you have to create enough misdirections. You throw in the clues, but create misdirections so that the reader notices these things, but cannot put them together. And at the end of the book, the best compliment a mystery writer can get is this: oh, why didn't I solve this problem? I saw all of these clues, I saw everything, but I didn't do it. Why did I fail? So that is really what you want in a mystery novel. And these are the challenges. These are the 3 big challenges. Okay, now I'll go back to you, Wendy, and I'll ask you, since you're talking about mystery and challenges, can you tell us a little bit about the police ride along that you did as part of a research for your book? Wow, that sounds exciting, a little bit scary even.
I love this. This was so fantastic. I loved it. And in fact, I don't know if you can see this. These are my pictures with my canine dog and police officer, my little certificate that I did it. I was so excited. I learned so much too. It's fantastic. The shift that they worked was from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. And this ride along completely hooked me on having a canine police partner in the book. I love having this dog in the book. It's like having another character. This dog has personality, works, has a job. It's fantastic. It's totally different than, there's another animal in the book. Catherine has a pampered cat she named Purrata. And, but this is, sorry, but this is very different. This canine officer. So many things I learned, even little things that I never even thought of. The advantages of working with a dog at night when it's harder for the officers to see in the dark. I had no idea that these dogs, not the partner, the human, but the dogs themselves too, have continued education that they're required to take and annual certifications that they have to do. When I met the dog, once his partner showed the dog that I was okay, then the dog was just on the job and couldn't care less about me, which is totally disinterested in me. So that was interesting. They were just very all business and devoted to that partner. He watched every move that that partner made. This dog was 4 years old. And when on the job, this dog, the commands given to the dog were all given in German. And there were different reasons for that, but one of the reasons is so that civilians that might be on the side couldn't confuse the dog by giving it other commands in English. It would just follow German. So that was interesting. The job is just the chase and the search immediately on the scene. And then once that's done, the handoff of the case is given to a detective. And sometimes that can cause some frustration for the officer because they want to stay on that case, but that's not their job. So they can't do that. So, and some of that tension is in my book too. I learned a lot about the scents, the dog tracking the scents. They're best tracked within the first 4 hours. And the Pacific Northwest is a great place for this tracking because what the scent is really dead skin cells that are shed, and they float on water. So they can actually be tracked more easily on a wet surface than on a dry pavement or any kind of dry surface. So that was interesting too. But what does cause problems is wind. Wind makes it very difficult for tracking. And the dog is not only searching for suspects, but also for any evidence or any clues that they can find. So that was interesting too, something that I didn't really think about. So while we were on in the patrol car for all those hours overnight, I heard lots of stories of adventures that this pair had had. On our night, we had a few. We had a car prowl. We had a car accident. We had a domestic violence incident. And that was interesting too, because the officer went to the house, got out of the car, went to the house and tried to diffuse the situation. But if there had been any problems, he has a button on his vest that he can push that button and it will open the door to the car and the dog can get out to come and help him if needed. So that I didn't know about that either. We did a stakeout. You might want to try something like this sometime. It's very interesting. We did this stakeout at this house in this neighborhood, and we were there for quite some time. Then when we drove off, the officer started asking me questions. Well, how many cars were parked on that street? Well, did you notice the color of the car across the... I learned how non-observant I am. I have improved, but I am still learning that. So that was kind of a lot of fun. There was also a store robbery, a fight at a hotel, a drunk man at a business, and we facilitated getting the hospital there and getting the ambulance there to take him to the hospital. And we did get to speed down the street with the lights and siren on one time. That was an experience too. The car is very cramped with so much high-tech equipment. I had no idea. And something funny again about these dogs, of course, I mean, any dog owner knows they have a personality. So whenever the officer would talk on the radio, wanted to talk to dispatch and such, the dog wanted to talk too and would talk in this little dog language. It was really comical. So, and so something I wanted to ask you, Bharti, is what attracted you to writing a PI type character over an amateur sleuth?
Well, thank you, Wendy. It's a very good question. And you have answered it partly, like you didn't notice those cars and you found all those high-tech equipment in the cars of the policemen. But I'll tell you, this is actually a very good beginning to an answer to my question, because you need the amount of knowledge that you need to solve a crime is quite a bit. And they could be either technical knowledge or psychological knowledge. For example, if somebody is interviewing a suspect, and how do they know that this person is telling the truth? So that would be one criterion. So that being the case, it's much easier to have a private detective than an amateur sleuth. Now, one of the tricks many mystery writers use is that if they have an amateur sleuth, they have the sleuth, and it's a she has a boyfriend in the police department. It's so common, and the boyfriend provides all that knowledge, right? So that's one way. But suppose the boyfriend didn't work for my private detective, actually. So I found that another thing is that when you go from, in a series, when you go from book to book, readers like to have some of the same characters. They kind of get attached to these characters. They like to know more about them. And so that carries them along into the next book. It's much easier when you have a private detective. And the third thing is that I use an Indian American private detective. That means she was born in India, raised in the US, and she was trained here in the crime field. Now, why is that significant? It's because you might not realize this, but in India now, there are a lot of women policemen. And at one point, the entire structure of the police force, the very top person in the country was a woman. And not only that, she was highly respected. So it has become rather common for women to be in police force and be private detectives. It's not unusual at all. They're not here in the US, of course. So I decided that I'll have an Indian American detective. And she has a different way of looking at things. She's much more holistic. She sees things differently. So I think it would be good to have someone like her solve a mystery and show how she does it. So these are the three reasons. And now I'm going to ask.
Those are big differences.
Yes.
They're
And
both fun to write.
Let me ask you, Wendy, what was your biggest surprise about writing your first book?
Okay, so this is how naive I was when I started. I was surprised that it took me longer than a 3-day weekend to get it all drafted. So you could see I had a long way to go from where I started. It took me years to write this book. The best surprise has been the fabulous friends that I have made and so many incredible people that I've met. I just love it. Writers are the most generous group of people. They just do everything for each other. And I've marveled at this, not just personally, but also with my podcasts, where authors are so giving of their time to share with other writers and with readers. And another surprise was to find out that writing truly is a lifestyle. And I love the lifestyle. I've been surprised at how much I had to learn. And that learning about writing continues. And it has certainly led to my deeper appreciation of all stories that I read, or in whatever form, books, movies, plays, all. Really have a lot of respect for storytellers. And some of my characters have surprised me, how they become so real to me and they expect to have their own way. And also just the characters themselves surprised me. One of my characters is named Moon Java, and Catherine calls her MJ. And she admires the 1960s hippie flower child movement. When I first thought of her, I never thought she would live the way that she does. And I did not know either that she would be Catherine's mother, which has turned out to be a great contrast in personalities. I never knew she has like daily meditations, and I had no idea that her meditations would become so integral to the story. And the biggest excitement about her is I never knew readers would love this character. So they just love Moon Java. And so because of that, I'm bringing her back for the sequel that I'm currently writing. So, so that's been a really nice surprise. Yes. So, yeah. Bharti, I wanted to ask you about setting descriptions. The way that you write your setting descriptions are so vivid and tangible for readers. It firmly, it firmly places readers in the scene. And I was wondering if you would share some helpful insights in writing descriptions.
Oh, thank you, Wendy. Thank you so much. I am a place-based person. I really connect with the place that I'm in, and I'm a place-based writer. So all my books are, you'll find the place is very, very important. Now, what do you do? I love to see the details. Whenever I'm somewhere, I love to see the details of the place, not only the different things that are there, but how I feel, what is the atmosphere? How do I feel being somewhere? So that's one thing. And the other thing is that I try to show the place or the setting through the character. So if the character is a certain kind of a person, for example, if I have flowers on the dining table, my husband may or may not notice it, but I know all my women friends will see it. They'll say, "Oh, beautiful flowers." So there is a difference what people notices as people, and depending on their mood, like if you're in a good mood, you're walking down the street, you notice all kinds of fun things. You don't notice the dead rat. You don't. So that's the kind of stuff. So being the person's mood really affects the setting descriptions. And so those are really the things I pretty much use, is the mood of the character and the details of a place, and bring them alive. You can't have too much setting, because there are some people who will not read them. Some people do, some people don't. But as long as you have the character through the descriptions, then the people probably will. Okay. And now I'm going to ask you, Wendy, about that romance you have in your book. How did romance contribute to your story?
Yes, thanks for asking that. Besides the mystery, which is very intriguing, I do have a couple of generations of romances with the characters themselves. In Cat Out of the Bag, Catherine Watson is divorced and very independent. She herself is surprised by her attraction to the cop, Jason Holmes. And she's also surprised at her frustration with him about the murder investigation. So that's some tension, maybe not enough tension, but Catherine is also attracted to charming Anthony Marconi. He is a total dream. So a bit of a triangle, not enough tension yet. How about this? Anthony is a suspect. We also have in Cat Out of the Bag, the younger generation chimes in with romance. Amber is the college student who manages the gift shop at the Personality Museum. And she's a college student, and she has a romantic, passionate love with Michael. So they run into some very unexpected and dangerous waves after the smooth sailing of their relationship launching. But in addition to the characters' romance, I also have a romance that provides clues. The romance is also at the heart of the mystery. A romantic love note is found in the lining of a 1920s donated vintage bag, and it turns out to be a clue that helps to catch The Contemporary Killer. And I did bring, for anybody who likes vintage purses, this
Oh,
is a
wow.
1920s Whiting and Davis purse. And this is the one that was my inspiration for the note in the lining that
Uh-huh.
Amber and Michael dug out. So just for fun. Bharti, what is next for your protagonist, Maya Malik?
Oh boy. I'm not going to reveal too much, but she has a new assignment. And the new assignment is to chase the biggest ruby in the world. Now, ruby gemstone, the most popular gemstone in India. And it's one of the most expensive, the bigger, the more authentic it is, of course, it's going to be priceless. And so Maya happened to be in India, and somehow she gets this assignment of this stolen gemstone. Now, there's a little bit of a history here. The gemstones in India are considered astrologically very significant. And if somebody loses something like a sapphire or ruby or pearl or whatever, it really affects them negatively. And therefore, people don't want to lose them. They want to keep them in safe places. They want to wear them with honor and respect. Now, this biggest rubies disappeared, and some people are suffering. And so there's a big chaos. But anyway, so this is her assignment now to solve. And I myself don't know who stole the ruby, but I'll have to find out. Okay, now we will now go into talking a little bit about pandemic writing. Wendy, you mentioned a little bit before, and maybe you can elaborate on how did you manage to continue to write during this period and still going on, and what helps you, and if you have any tips for our participants here, that would be really great. And I'll also share one of my tips later.
Oh, yes. Well, I don't presume to have any answers for anybody, but I can tell you what has been helping me. I do a lot of walking. I walk the dog. I have the dog here. We walk 4 miles, and that gives me a lot of creative time. And I really love it. My mind just goes through plot problems, plot twists, characters, anything. I just let my mind go wild with it. And over 4 miles, I'm not a fast walker, so it gives me a lot of creative time. Also, when I can, I try to do some outdoor getaways, hikes, or even just go sit on the beach on my own. I come back really refreshed and ready to go. The other thing big is I have 2 amazing critique groups, and we meet on Zoom. One of them we meet weekly, and the other one we meet every other week. And they provide so much with me. First of all, just a social time. And then hearing their stories develop is, I savor that. I love that. And then the challenge for me to try to analyze any suggestions that I might have for them, and also highlight strengths or things that I really like about their writing, is also so good for me, because it helps me learn how to do that for my own writing too, at least to whatever extent I can. It gives me accountability. I need to, if I'm going to be meeting with the critique groups, I'm going to bring a scene, or I'm going to bring something that I want their comments and critique for. So that's real accountability for me. And then their critiques are so helpful for me. And as soon as I get them afterwards, that same night, I am editing right away, so that I can start improving what I've got based on what they've said. And when I start getting kind of, I don't know, frenetic about my writing and stuff, music is very helpful for me. I love music when I'm writing, or even just to get into the writing, but mostly instrumental. Lyrics will bump me out. So I do that. And then deadlines, either real deadlines or self-inflicted. I am the kind of person that gets motivated by working to a deadline. I just had a new novella that I finished and I turned into my editor, made the deadline. And then the sequel that I mentioned that I'm working on, I have a lot of self-inflicted deadlines and goals for that. So, and I left it to last, but it's probably the biggest motivation for me. I'm really motivated by reader feedback now that I've got books out there. And I get that a lot of the feedback from social media and people commenting and so forth or contacting me. And I'm so motivated by getting that feedback. I really love it. And I see it also on my blogs and my podcasts and my book recommendation columns. And I do want to mention that anybody who's got books, email me and let me know if you're interested in a book review or book in my column, because I'd be more than happy to take a look at that. So please do that. Bharti, what are you doing to get through the pandemic writing?
Thank you for asking, Wendy. I didn't have as much time as some people really have difficulties. I didn't have as much simply because I usually set aside some time saying, this is 1 p.m. and I'm going to write right now. And if you're very definite about time and space and how long and all of that, I think more than likely it will happen. So that's one thing. The other thing is to have something that you're really interested in writing. Like if you're in the middle of a story, you want to continue with the story, that sort of thing will also work. And another thing I found that helped me is I wrote an essay about the pandemic. And that helped me because, it was asked for by a magazine and I felt like I have a deadline, I have to do it. And it's an interesting topic. It's a topic of today. So that also motivated me. So if you can, on top of whatever you're doing, a regular book, if you have a shorter project, doing something, and that essay got published and I was happy about that. So shorter projects really help to break down that big, they have the big project in front of you. Sometimes that can intimidate you, but shorter projects can be rather helpful. So all of these things, and I think I was talking to a friend of mine, another mystery writer, and she says she has no problem. She said, this is the way her life has always been. She's always alone in a room and writing or thinking or listening to music or something. So she doesn't find it that difficult. So writers probably have an easier time with this isolation than other people, I think. Okay, Wendy, now that I've listened to so much about the book, would you read for us a few pages? That would be really wonderful. I'd love to hear the author speak her own words, her own book. So if you do that, that'd be just lovely.
That's so nice. Thank you. Yes, I have my book here, Cat Out of the Bag. So exciting. This is a scene where Catherine she's got one of the suspects in her little office. This is Rob. He is the local journalist. And according to Catherine, he's also a suspect. Rob's voice preceded him into the room. Catherine, I've been thinking about my article on the investigation, and I just need corroboration from you and a look at that note. I have a few questions for you that I want on the record too. Rob sat down with his phone on the desk between them. She leaned forward and perched her head on her hands. Don't turn your recorder on. I have a few questions for you first. We're talking to each other, but don't start thinking we're friends. We still need to clear the air. I heard you threaten Brenda at the gala. You said it was personal. What was your grievance against her? Rob paled, and she felt like the momentum had swung her way. He put his phone back in his pocket. I don't know what you're talking about. Catherine played the video of the dramatic encounter on her larger screen for him to see. At the end, he stroked his chin and stared back at her. That's not what it looks like. And even if it was, what are you accusing me of? You really think that little of me? You're nuts. I don't kill people that I have disagreements with. Don't you know the pen is mightier than the sword? I'm telling you, her policies played favorites with Bayside's elitists. I was going to expose her to the voters during the upcoming elections so she'd be stopped. It's a personal vendetta because her politics drove my mother out of her business. My war against Brenda was waged in my paper and my blog, not in your shed. I spent the gala working. Ask my photographer. Catherine was taken back with his vigorous defense, and for the first time in this case, she doubted herself. She made a mental note to check with that photographer. I'm just asking you about it, Rob. How would I know you worked during the gala? You never published an article about the museum itself. All your press coverage is sensationalism on the murder. That's your complaint? You didn't get your press release? You'll get it when my editor decides that it's news. I want to ask you some questions about the husband on bail. He was having an affair, according to some of my sources. Can you corroborate? No. What about that note then? Can I get a look at that? Catherine wasn't ready to trust Rob with the new note, so instead she showed him the pictures she'd taken of the gala note. She didn't want to subject Cynthia to Rob either, so she kept the picture of her note hidden. His expression turned puzzled, and she was surprised to see him speechless. She tamped down her impatience, watching Parada and counting her constant tail waves as she sprawled across the conference table. Rob interrupted her count. That's weird. It's made from cutout letters from a newspaper. Easy for the killer to get their hands on, I guess, but old school, and a computer printed note is much handier. Rob reached over and made the image larger and studied it. You know, this print looks like it might be the jumble puzzle letters font. I wonder, can you test this? Can you text this to me? Will you let me know what you find out? Text me and I'll tell you what I find. Rob got up from his chair and leaned on the desk. You know, I don't have anything against you, Catherine, despite how you've treated me over the years, but I do have my limits. Don't ever accuse me of murder and then ask about your museum's press, not if you want to stay on my good side. And with that, Rob walked out of her office.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Wendy. Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. Now, as I mentioned, you're part of this conversation. So do you have any question? Any of you have any questions? By the way, welcome to Valerie. Valerie Brooks, she's here, Wendy. You know her, and we both know her very well. So
Fabulous femme noir author.
Wonderful.
Hello, Wendy. Bharti.
I just wanted to share something.
oh yes,
It's a purse. So I went back and got into my
oh
drawer. This was my Nana's, probably
Yeah.
1920. And I believe it's an old needlepoint. So that part might be actually older. And then I have several of
Beautiful.
these. This was my great grandmother's, and she
oh,
did
my
her own
goodness,
beadwork.
that's wonderful.
Isn't that wonderful?
Oh, that's
Wow.
amazing.
My goodness.
Wow.
I have one that has flowers on it, but even the braiding on it
Oh God, that
is
is
just really amazing. So
Oh,
I have them carefully
beautiful.
tucked away. And when you first had your book come out, I went like, oh, I have a few. I even have something that's made out of a scarf, and I believe it's from the 1870s, because she would have been about
Wow.
about 27. And it's just a silk scarf. There's a way, what do they call it? A pemula? I can't remember the name for it, but it's just something you hung off of your wrist. But it's literally a scarf that ties up, and the ends have little, very delicate crochet on it to hold it together. It's quite amazing.
Oh
So,
my goodness. It's art.
but
It's art.
it is art. And when you talked about story, going with the purse, there is a story. I wish I knew more of the stories from my great grandmother and my Nana, but they were very crafty people. I have to say that those women could do a lot of stuff. So.
Fantastic. Wow. Yeah. And you write historical fiction. And this is history. These purses are history. Amazing.
Yeah, they're very
Janet,
special.
I have to get together with you someday. We have to get together so I can see them in person, get the story.
Well, the next time you come up, we can meet at safe distance and I'll bring them out.
Okay, any other questions to Wendy
Thanks
or
for
me
sharing
or
that.
anything, or to Sean?
Janet did
Oh,
have a
this-
question earlier that's mentioned. She was asking about the docents at Wendy's museum.
Because I was at a
Yeah.
museum, I worked 11 years at Skagit County Historical Museum. So I'm wondering about your docents in your museum, in your book. Are they some of the
Oh, thanks for the question. Yes. So the main docent and historian is Moonjava, MJ. And they set up the exhibits. Now, this museum is just started in the first book, so we don't have all the decades done yet. And in subsequent books, we have more and more decades that are going to be opening. So right now, the museum's a little on the small side. And so it doesn't take a lot of staff, but Moonjava is the main historian and docent. And then also Amber is trained. She knows, she learns all the history and everything so that she can also answer questions and so forth. And Catherine is living there. So although she's very busy and her schedule has to be flexible so that she can analyze clues and find killers. But other than that, she can also help a little bit with the museum.
Okay, anything else you guys want to know about
Yeah.
Wendy's writing? Oh, there is Valerie. Good
Hi,
to see you.
Bharti and Wendy.
Oh my
Two
goodness,
of
what
my
a
favorite
surprise.
people. I know.
Thank
I
you
was
for
late, but
joining us. Thank you.
well, I tried to get on, but family
Of course.
sometimes can take over everything. That's the good thing about writers. We have to juggle a lot.
That's true.
So Wendy, as much as I know you, I never knew what was the very beginning of when did you find your first purse, or when was that love affair started? Because you've got me hooked now. You drive me nuts. So anyhow,
Oh, this is-
I
every
know,
time I
Val.
open things up, I'm finding purses and I send it to her. I was like,
Valerie, you've sent me so many fantastic things, and I owe you a couple of emails because I love them so much. All these articles and everything that you've been sending is fantastic. Yes. Well, my love started way back in teenage years, and the first shoulder bag that my mother, it was a big occasion. My mother and I went out and she bought me this shoulder bag, and as is so often the case, your favorite bags are a lot are tied with those kinds of memories. So I still have that bag, and it's very, very special to me, even though it's just a regular old bag. Then I, got married, had kids. I not spending money on, bags and so forth and so on. But as I get older, my love of purses got reignited through a friend of mine at work named Sally, who is crazy for purses. She's fanatic, and she really sparked that back up in me. It didn't take much. And so we were QVCing and looking for new designers that hadn't hit it big yet, and testing our skills in deciding who would be the next big designer and so forth. Really, really fun. And and she just got me started with it being so fun. And that's when I started the blog, A Passion for Purses. And so I've had that for many years. Now my characters have taken that over, but yeah,
but it's a great
so
place.
much fun.
Yeah, it's a great place to feed that into, because I'm also learning from, reading your novels, just like I'm learning from Bharti's novels, cultural things I didn't know, Bharti, I just love that open world where, and so many women are writing such great mysteries, suspense, and thrillers now. it's huge. And I
Yes.
just love that cultural context when it comes in. And setting, I'm a big setting person, Bharti. That's where
Oh,
I start my
wonderful.
novels. I love to start my characters come out of the ground from the setting.
Yeah,
They literally,
they are.
form out of the ground from a setting. So if it's on the ground. So thank you both.
Since you mentioned ground and space and place, I'll mention one thing to you, and Wendy, you might be interested in this. In India, some years back, a kind of purse was very popular, and it was carried actually by men. It's called jhola. Jhola is like a loose bag that you put down your shoulder, and it was carried by men who acted more intellectual and tried to show that they're always reading. They have a lot of books in there, and so it's a jhola man. It was kind of a fun thing to observe, that people walking around, these intellectual-looking guys carrying a jhola. So that was it, and it was done by men, not women.
I love that. That's interesting.
Bharti, you're gonna have to put that in one of your novels.
Okay, that's not a bad idea. Actually,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, good. Good thought. Thank you so much, all. Is there anything else we can answer, talk to you about, or?
There is Susan Greisen is asking about emails, contact info for you too. Wendy, you mentioned people getting their work to you for potential review. How, what are they, should they just send you the book, or should they contact you first, or?
Yeah, just go ahead and email me first. Don't send me the book right up. But contact me first. And my email is Wendy Writes, WENDYWRITES @yahoo.com.
Okay, cool.
And she does a wonderful
Very
job.
nice.
She interviewed me last May, right? And they do a wonderful job.
Janet
Wonderful.
makes it easy.
She interviewed me too. It was
nice.
really enjoyable. Hi, Wendy.
That was so fun too. Oh, I love that, Connie. That was really fun. I should put that out again. I mean, they all stay out on YouTube, on the channel, but every once in a while I recirculate them through social media. So,
Oh, great. Yeah, good.
Okay, well,
Anything else?
thank you all very much for coming. Shall we just wave at Wendy for the wonderful job she did?
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy.
thank you all so
Wendy.
much. I really appreciate this. It's so nice to see you. Thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy the book. And yes, there's signed copies at Village Books. So feel free, help yourself. And if you'd like one that's personally signed with a personal message, I'm happy to go up the road and sign some more. So
Or
Thank
send
you.
some signed book plates so you don't have to physically come. You can do that too. I think Village Books accepts those. So
Book plates are fine too.
book plates are
Yeah,
okay.
book plates are fun. Yeah. Thank you, Bharti, for putting it together.
Oh, no, this is fun. For a long time, we've been
Always,
wanting to do
yeah.
this.
Good.
Fun.
Good.
Good to see you too. Thank you for being here. Made it special, very special.
Thank you, Bharti.
Wonderful. Well, we'll reconvene April 14th at 7. So in the meantime, take good care of yourselves, and we're looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much, Wendy.
thank you, Sean.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
Sean, and also Claire and all the folks at Village Books. You've all been fantastic.
They are fantastic.
Aren't we?
Oh. Yes, you are. Absolutely.
Sean, we
Alrighty.
can remind people to go to our website, become I'm not sure if
Oh, remind
right
people
now.
to go to your
we'll pick that
website, the
later, but you
Whatcom.
become
You're a little
yes,
glitchy,
Whatcom,
Bennett.
it's Whatcom Writers and Publishers.
Yeah, Whatcom Writers and Publishers.com. And yeah,
Facebook and the Facebook.
there is a Facebook page as well. Yes. Right.
There's Facebook.
Yep. So
It's a wonderful group. It's been around a long time, and I think we're hitting our 38th year. It started off more people in journalism, and then all these novelists like me started showing up in the early, I think even the 80s. We started showing up, and they joined. A lot of people left to join a group down in Seattle because it fit their profession more. But we have poets, we have people write memoirs, like Susan Grayson's wonderful memoir, and it's just a wonderful group. And we miss not being together, but we certainly really go nuts.
yeah.
Claire is awesome. She really jumped in at Village Books to make our launches for our books coming out. You have a really big one coming up in March 14th. I need to go in and sign up for that because you're doing it with Third Place, and you're doing it, what other place you're doing?
Oh, you're talking
Anyway.
about, it's March 13th. Are you talking about
Yeah,
this Saturday?
right.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Kazuo Ishiguro in conversation with
Oh,
Ruth
he's
Ozeki.
coming. Oh, wow.
It's a ticketed event. You get access to the event as well as a copy of Clara and the Sun, as well as a signed book plate by Kazuo Ishiguro. The event is at 2 p.m.
Amazing. Yeah.
and it's if you go to our homepage, villagebooks.com, I've got it listed right on the main homepage, and you can click through to the Eventbrite to register for tickets. It's going to be amazing. I'm a huge Ruth Ozeki fan, so I'm excited to hear Kazuo Ishiguro speak, but I'm doubly excited that he's in conversation with Ruth Ozeki, and I'm really trying to get Northwest Washington represented at this event because we are partnering with Third Place Books and Elliott Bay Books.
Right.
And so I'm hoping there's going to be a large contingent of Whatcom County and Skagit County folks. So get your tickets.
Yeah, and Ruth Ozeki, I have to plug that for you. I introduced her at the University of Oregon, and she is a hoot. She's just a wonderful, everything emits from her. It's just she's lots of fun to be around, and also very, I don't know, I love her spirit.
She's very thoughtful, very thoughtful. You know, she's a Buddhist monk as well as a writer and professor.
Right.
And so I don't know if many of you attended her events when she was the Whatcom Reads selection a number of years ago for A Tale for the Time Being. But yeah, she's a very powerful speaker. We're really excited. Thank you for mentioning that. Thanks for bringing that up.
Sure.
Thanks for supporting all of us authors here in town.
Well, it's what we do. I can't wait for you all to come back to the store.
So are you now doing, Claire,
love
are you
the
now
store.
doing events with other bookstores in the Seattle area? That's a great idea, actually.
This is something that's a lot of the publishers are doing sort of nationwide. So all of Ishiguro's events are partnerships between the 2 and 3 bookstores. So his whole tour is set up like this, and it's something that is going to be, I think, increasing with the virtual events.
Yeah.
So I mean, we love to partner with our Northwest bookstores. We were really pleased to be invited to the party. So I hope we'll see you there.
That's gonna be great.
Thank you very
Wonderful.
much.
Well, thank you both.
Hey. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
Right.
you.
We did it. We did it
Thank
again. See you April
Yay.
14th.
Yay, Sean.
And with any luck, March 13th. So good night. Thank you,
All
Claire.
right.
Thank you.
Good
Yeah,
night.
Thank you.
Night.
I'm
Night.
hitting the red
Thank
button.
you.
Good night.
Yay, we
Good night.
Good night.